Build creative confidence. Beat the inspiration addiction. Join the Writer's Gym. Six-time winner of the Bram Stoker Award, author of 4 novels and 200 short stories, and a world-class Halloween and paranormal expert, screenwriter and author Lisa Morton is described by the American Library Association's Reader's Advisory Guide to Horror as consistently dark, unsettling, and frightening. Lisa also hosts the popular weekly Ghost Report podcast and a newsletter about the paranormal, The Whole Haunted World. She lives in Los Angeles and online at lisamorton.com. And we met when we were both in Great British Horror 5 with short stories for that anthology published by Black Shuck Books. And Lisa has been part of my annual Green Ink sponsored write for Macmillan Cancer Support ever since. Come and meet her. How are you?
Still tired from StokerCon, but okay.
It looked amazing. What was it like?
It was very big. It was the biggest one they've ever had, over 800 people there in the flesh. And, for me, it's an event where I get constantly pulled in 5 different directions at once. So it was tiring. And just the across the country travel is enough.
Yeah. And without getting into the many things that I'm sure you don't want to get into, has travel got worse over there? I mean, are you seeing...
Well, oddly enough, we had our easiest cross-country flight ever.
Oh, wow.
Which we did not expect. But, we were laughing over the fact that to get from where we live to where the hotel was, we had to take a car, a bus, a plane, a train, and walk. Yeah. So... Yeah.
And that's all before you do quite a lot of presenting, being interviewed.
Exactly. Yeah. And, and we took a day away to do New York, which was great. And
lovely.
Saw a fabulous production of Cabaret on Broadway. And so that was great, but all tiring. And it's been very busy at my day job this week. So
follow your day job with much enjoyment on Facebook. And I think what I might do, if this is okay, is... while I have your bio and in the actual recording, they'll hear me saying things. It would be lovely to get a bit of a sense from you, because the writing life balance of how we do things is always interesting no matter what. But where you have somebody who is fiction, non-fiction, ghosts, bookshop, cats, that is the bingo card of wonderful things. So can I get you to just do a bit of talking about life in general before we get going?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a pretty busy bingo card at this point. It's the only thing I don't have is children, I think. I feel like I have the rest of it all in multiples. It's a day job. Maybe people don't know that I work at a used bookstore here in LA. We are the oldest one, maybe the largest, although we're not totally sure about that. But we have recently been discovered by social media. So we have fabulous young people in all day long making reels and posting them all over the place, which is really fun and really great, except our business is exploding. Again, really great, unless you're one of the staff members desperately working to keep up with it. We're all drowning right now. So that's the day job. And yes,
are you deliberately not saying the bookshop's name because there's already too many people in there?
Yeah, I should say it is the Iliad bookshop in North Hollywood. It's just a few minutes north of Universal Studios. We do a lot of business with the studios, which is fun too. And then I try now to write in the mornings and on my days off when I'm not just struggling to sit up. And I am about to sign my contract on my next nonfiction book, which is going to be a year's worth of very heavy, intensive research, although I've already gathered most of the materials at least. I am trying to keep up with fiction and my Substack newsletter.
Mm. Do you want to say anything about Substack? Because it's still, I mean, I want to say new. I guess it's not as new as it was. See also the rest of...
Sorry, there's a black cat tail coming in there.
That is not sorry. That is extreme happiness. Would you like to introduce us to the black cat?
That one was Sammy. He's down here at my feet now, looking up hopefully. People who don't know where I live slightly up in the foothills just to the north of LA, and our backyard has become like feral cat convention all year round, and we constantly have ferals showing up, and half of the time the girl cats are pregnant, and we try to trap them and get them spayed and neutered. And last year we ended up taking 2 black kittens out of 1 litter, and so we do have 4 indoor cats now, and who knows at any given time how many outdoors that we try to take care of too.
The only cat I have ever had was a black cat, and his photograph is off camera. He's with us, enjoying this conversation in spirit. I was horrified. This is not relevant to anything except black cats, but I was horrified when I found out that the reason that Black Cat Appreciation Day happens is because they get adopted less. It's just, I mean, they're beautiful. Hello. Oh, for anybody listening to the audio form, is that Sammy?
That's Sammy.
Hello, Sammy. Sammy has joined us.
Sammy he's an amazing little guy. He is the most guileless, sweetest natured creature of any kind I have ever known. I mean, he's kind of hilarious because he loves to walk up to our older cats. The older cats are 18 and 14. And he assumes they're going to be his best friend, and they just whack him. And he just tries it over and over. He's so sweet. So we got very lucky with him and with his sister Spooky, who is the other one we kept.
And what were you climbing recently to rescue somebody, or what happened with that?
Well, we had another batch of ferals in the backyard who were pregnant. We had a new litter show up, although we ended up finding and trapping only 1 kitten. And of course, this all had to happen the day before we left for StokerCon. I have a friend who's heavily involved with rescue who called me on that Monday. We were leaving for Wednesday and said, I've got appointments tomorrow for spaying and neutering if you can get them overnight tonight. It's like, trying to pack and everything else. So we were insanely lucky. We got the ones that hadn't been spayed and neutered yet. So they're all taken care of now. There will hopefully be no new litters in the immediate future. And we are trying to adopt out the 1 kitten, who is an absolutely gorgeous tortoiseshell baby, about 10 weeks old now.
This was a side of my life I have reluctantly abandoned because my partner Mark is allergic. So he's all right if we can go and look at them. But I am leaping into every opportunity to sort of cat by extension. So if Sammy or anybody else wants to come back into cameras anytime, please know they are free to do so. At the risk of saying relevant things, it's going to be our sponsored rights anniversary, and I guess, hello. This is Cat reappearing is much more important than any question I could ask. So I'm going to do some staring at Cat while asking questions. But I originally got to know you when we did Great British Horror 5 in 2021. I had to look that up because it feels, that whole lockdown era feels both very, very recent and also like lifetimes have changed, flashed by since. And that was when I first interviewed you, when I was going around all of our collaborators. I think I interviewed myself as well at some point and just talked about writing those stories and writing in general. And that was where I got to know you. But you've been sponsored writing with me pretty much ever since. And I guess I want to say, how's that been?
Oh, it's been great. I love the Green Ink sponsored rights. I think we have discussed in earlier years that one of the great things about it is the timing, that it's in October. I am a Halloween expert, and my Octobers are absolutely insane. And it's so nice to promise myself that one Sunday where I am going to do nothing but sit down and think up a story and then write it. It's like my little spa in the middle of all the crazy interview stuff in October, because I mean, my days off in October, I may have 4 interviews scheduled, just bang, 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 and doing those and trying to keep up with everything else. My gift to myself is to be able to sit down and do those stories for Sponsored Right.
It's interesting hearing you say that, because when I when I invented this, it was very much for that reason. I had worked out, A, I want to do something for Macmillan Cancer Support. B, I want it to be something that I believe deserves to be in the world. You know, I want to invent something that is important to have. And for me, as a relatively or almost completely beginner writer at that moment, it was such a gift because the having to was enormously helpful, that it's not about how pleased do I feel about it. It's not about anything other than what I now know every first draft needs to be about, which is exist, please. And then we will come back and we will edit you and we will bring you forward and you will become yourself gradually. But I suppose I was instinctively thinking thoughts like that. And I'd be interested to know whether that is something that still means something with all the experience and with all the awards that you have. Does that still help? I guess the fact that you enjoy it is probably a clue, but would you, for example, make other days like that throughout the year where you go, this is just going to be playtime, this is going to be my story day?
I would like to. I probably should force myself to set those days aside. But one of the things that I do often tell newer writers is the importance of deadlines, of trying to make a certain time. I am almost always writing to deadlines at this point. But if I am not, if I'm just on those rare occasions when I'm just writing for myself, I will sometimes impose a deadline on myself because I find it makes me more productive. And one of the interesting things about the Sponsored Write Challenge is that you don't start writing until you sit down. And that's kind of magical too, to give yourself that freedom to just say, okay, I have the barest bones idea of what this story is going to be. Now let's just jump in and see what happens. And it's a really fun process, especially when you give yourself that very specific, I know I have to be done by.
And have you surprised yourself in that process?
I have. I think every year I look at the finished story and I say, that's actually not bad. Sometimes I might wish I had a little bit more time to maybe polish them up, but I'm usually pretty happy with how they turn out.
I should probably say, just for anyone who's watching or listening to us without having had the backstory, we do this for Macmillan Cancer Support, and Macmillan Cancer Support's mission is quality of life for everyone affected by cancer. So the themes are always something around quality of life and something around green, because that's their colour. Also happens to be my favourite colour, either as cause or effect. And this year we've got, it was chosen by Rhianna Pratchett this year. I always ask a different writer to select a theme, but I think this theme is one of my favourites so far, which is somewhere that's green, happy place, utopias and happy places. And I just know that a lot of us will be subverting that in a number of directions.
I love that part of it, by the way. I know last year was kind of a happier theme too. And I ended up thinking about, well, you know, I am a horror writer for the most part. So what do I do with this? And I have absolutely no idea yet what I'm going to do with this year's theme. I will maybe start to think about it a week before.
Yeah. And I do say on the occasions I'm asked this, you know, there's no alarm goes off in the universe if we write down the odd keyword to ourselves. You know, it's very much the spirit of the law, not the absolute word, in that, you know, as long as you write it within that time, it absolutely counts, because it is about us volunteering our time. It is never word count. It is never anything else. It is all about showing up for it. Had you come across Macmillan Cancer Support before all of this landed in your life, before the Sponsored Write landed in your life?
I had not. Of course, I'm in LA, on kind of the other side of the world, I think, from where it does most of its work. So I'm certainly very happy to have learned of them and be able to help them out maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's because I've always sort of found it to be quite a nice parallel that their mission is all about all of the ways that life affects. You know, you can talk to them about money for things. You can talk, like Jennifer Stile, who I think you've met in passing at some point, who is a Macmillan service user. You know, she's told me, just in terms of the things that you never think will be part of it until you're there. You know, they are there for every angle of life, and whether it's conversations or advice or whatever it needs to be, that's them. And I think if you needed to say something to not just a beginner writer, to any writer, it's knowing that the whole of yourself is welcome to that page. That, you know, the surprise for me is all about letting different things in. And I think that's why I so agree with you. I also talk to people about how the deadline is my best friend, that you do something and you do surprise yourself and you do, find that things can join in ways you might not have expected. So I think the sponsored writer has been good training for me in all of those things, really. I really would love to, if there is anything you'd like to say about what's coming up for you, writing, life, etc., please do feel free to take me to anything that is useful for you.
I will try to send people to my Substack, which is lisamorton.substack.com. I am putting out both a regular free monthly author newsletter, and I have a paid version of the newsletter in which I'm doing very detailed articles on famous hauntings. And I am truthfully hoping to have enough material out of those for a book in the future. But it's been really fun to dig into some of these things that I already knew kind of the surface level of, and am now learning some of the really amazing. Some of these stories are just incredible.
Are you allowed to give us a taster, or is that too?
I will tell you the one I am working on right now is the story of Florence Cook and William Crookes. And this dates back to, I think it's 1872 when most of this happens. And Crookes was one of the most famous scientists in the world at the time. This was a guy who discovered elements for the periodic table, who created the earliest version of the modern vacuum tube. I mean, this man was a scientific genius. And Florence Cook was a teenage medium, and he spent 6 months investigating her, including taking 44 photographs of her materializing her spirit guide, who was called Katie King. And he essentially put his whole reputation on the line to say this is all completely authentic. And it's amazing. You look at these photographs, most of them haven't survived, but a few have. There's a very famous one of him arm in arm with this spirit, and the spirit guide is dressed in this elaborate white headdress and white robes, and it's very plainly Florence Cook. And there's a central mystery at the core of this relationship, which is so fascinating, which is, did they have an affair or not? These experiments and investigations were conducted in his home, where his wife was pregnant at the time with something like their 10th child. And I lean on the side that says that he did not have an affair with her, that he was a man who desperately wanted to believe in the existence of ghosts and spirits in an afterlife, because he had tested a number of the most famous mediums at the time and pronounced them all authentic. Like I said, it's the kind of thing that as a modern, I definitely hew to the skeptic side of things. You look at all of his journals and his photographs and his drawings, and you just think, it's so obvious that it's all fake. But it was not to him. And that's one of the things that I find fascinating about their particular story. It also, on Florence's side, it becomes rather tragic because she ends up losing. She had a fabulously wealthy patron named Charles Blackburn, who ended up deciding that she was a fraud and removed his sponsorship and instead gave it to her sister, who was not as good at mediumship, but who apparently also didn't try as hard. So there wasn't as much to go wrong with what her sister was doing. Florence ends up essentially dying in poverty, fairly young. She was in her 40s. And so, yeah, it's a really, just both sides of that equation are so interesting. And so those are the kind of things that I'm exploring in depth with the paid Substack.
It's so interesting to hear all of those different angles of how those people approach each other, and I'm going to go into Mulder land now because I can't get through this without saying the sentence that I'm sure everybody else is thinking too, the I want to believe, and how you can hide in a belief that's so strong it almost takes away your free will. But the example of becoming your own fiction, that if she either believed that it was coming through her or believed that whatever it allowed for people was important enough, that it in turn became important enough to embody it, to be that for somebody else. It's amazing how our brains can rewire what truth actually is.
And I think there's even a third option to what you just listed, which is that in the case of somebody like Florence Cook, and I suspect many of the mediums from the 19th century, they knew they were committing fraud. There was, I don't think, any doubt in their minds that they possessed no real ability and that they were absolutely committing fraud, but they were also doing this sometimes to help people. People would come out of these seances and say, I found great comfort in that, or just I enjoyed it. I didn't believe it, but it was great fun. So that's the other angle that can sometimes be a little bit troubling, especially for me. I mean, I understand, for example, Houdini wanting to debunk them and debunk them spectacularly and really painfully. But there's also a side that says, you know, how much harm really is there in this if people are finding something out of it?
It's so interesting hearing that, because I have a friend who performs tarot readings, and I have a lot of friends who have enjoyed that. It's not something I've ever explored, not since being in a youth club, and we did a program on it at one point. So I'm by no means informed enough to have an opinion on this, but she performs them, and something that I have noticed is about when she's describing what it is people enjoy is it's a system for thinking about things, in the same way that fiction for me, the what ifs for me, it's all about scratching an itch and understanding other people more, other versions of things. And yes, the danger, if I were going to point a finger at what I think it is, would be when you have to believe something literal. But then another famous quote, you would say that, wouldn't you? Because my whole thing about the religious background that I have is I was told from an early age, or I was shown from an early age, really. It's not about these stories. It's not about whether or not these stories literally happened. That's not the point. If they did, all well and good. But if they didn't, also all well and good, because what it's actually about is how do I take what they're saying about people and things and explore it in my life. And that's the point. And it does seem to be that when people get hung up on literal truth, they stand in their own way, or they have to fight about it harder. Whereas if you allow the story to mean something to you, I feel like you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things I find interesting about this whole William Crookes and Florence Cook story is that I feel like it's relevant. It seems to me very timely, a story about a man who is extremely rational, allowing himself to believe something that is obviously not rational and is not true. I feel like much of the world might be stuck in that kind of thinking right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is very, very timely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you have a sort of title release date?
Well, this is just my ongoing aid newsletter. I have already done a number of articles for it. I've done articles on Odysseus in the Odyssey calling up the dead, which I call history's first great seance. And I've done articles on some more contemporary themes. The Villisca Axe Murder House here in the U.S. in Iowa is quite a famous place that is supposedly extremely and malevolently haunted. And so I'm just enjoying kind of jumping around throughout haunted history and covering the things that intrigue me. And at some point in the future, like I said, I hope we put them in order into a book form.
Right. But that's more for later, when you've had more space to explore on Substack.
Right. And as always, there are some fiction things that are out in the world that are being read right now. There is a novel my agent is shopping. And I'm hoping, in fact, this week to sign the deal on the next nonfiction book. So I don't want to quite give it away yet, but look for an announcement in the very near future.
Definitely. I won't push further than that. What I would love to ask you before we finish is with the Writers' Gym, a lot of the things that we hold very dear, we've already touched on, e.g. making friends with deadlines, making it work for you, being clear about what makes your time and space agreeable to you and making it happen in your own way. I would love to hear if there are any either lifestyle related or creative exercises or anything that works for you that you would be up for sharing, like a this works for me schedule or exercise or anything that occurs to you. I'd love to know what works for you.
I probably one of my favorite tips is the easiest, fastest way for me to do a quick edit or rewrite on something. With the Macmillan sponsored write, of course, you may have minutes left on the deadline to do a rewrite or an edit. is to take your file in your word processing program and just put it in a different font. It's amazing. It sounds really dumb, but it's amazing what that reveals. That never fails to have me finding things that are like, oh, how did I miss that? That's clumsy. And then you get it fixed and you're good to go. I know some people will read their work out loud as another way to do that. I prefer the font method myself. As soon as I start reading these things out loud, all of these cats think I'm calling them. And it becomes a little cat chaos. So I do the font trick myself.
Do you talk back? Like, do they try and have a conversation when you do that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have Sammy, who's been in and out, is fairly vocal, and one or two of the older ones may or may not be into that as well. So our little Spooky, she was the runt of the litter last year, and she's still very small and very quiet and very funny. She's our little court jester. So
the font exercise is one I have not tried. I'm looking forward to playing with that. It actually oddly reminds me of one that I feel like my cat taught me, actually. Teddy the black cat taught me, which was I noticed with him that one week the only sofa in existence would be this sofa and nowhere else was interesting. This was the place to be. And that was it. And then the next week it would be the armchair and that was the only place to be. And something in watching him do that clicked with me and made me realise that if I change my space for sometimes per project, sometimes per hour of the day, the parameters change. But in the same way that you're describing being able to see it more clearly in a different font, I feel like I see things more clearly if I physically move myself from space to space from time to time. And it is about that wake up, isn't it?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I do a little bit of that myself, but my best results come from the font trick.
I am doing the font trick. Thank you for that. I'm looking forward to that one. Oh, well, that was absolutely lovely. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having me back every year. Like I said, it has become one of my favorite October happenings.
Oh, now that means a lot because nobody has more October happenings than you.
Well, it's my one stress-free October. I mean, it sounds weird because you're putting out work on a deadline that's very tight, but it's my little moment of joy in the midst of all the craziness.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, it's so interesting. I also say to myself, given that I do really love this day, why am I not making more of this day, plopping a few more of them around the year? And I find I don't. But I think maybe I will.
Why not? People are now celebrating Halloween at April 30th. Maybe you need a late April.
That is going to happen. Are you doing Halloween? I feel like in my accent it sounds ridiculous. I can't say it. Are you doing that?
I am. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a sort of literal celebration that goes with it. There aren't large parties or parades or trick-or-treating or any of that. But one of the things that I have found that's fun to do at Halloween is watch the internet for the retail things. Some of the big retailers who bring out the great Halloween stuff every year will do surprise announcements now on April 30th. And it's really fun to see those suddenly popping up in your feed. So I do enjoy that sort of very capitalist merchandising extravaganza.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually drinking out of exactly that merchandising extravaganza all year round. I love my skull. It's perfect writing companion because it's not glass. It's not going to break.
Right.
It stays with me all the time. Lisa Morton, thank you for joining the Writers' Gym. You've visited the Writers' Gym with author and coach Dr. Rachel Knightley. Production and sound design are by Ashley Lexine and theme music is by Chris Gregory. To join a Writers' Gym workout online or in London as a guest or as a member, visit writersgym.com or email thewritersgym@rachelknightley.com.